Did you know that AI could replace teachers, doctors, all within the next decade? Unless you've completely tuned out the news lately, and I don't blame you if you have, but you might not have seen some really interesting headlines. There was one recently, Bill Gates. Bill Gates came out with a really attention grabbing headline because he's suggesting that AI could replace roles like doctors and teachers within the next decade. And you heard that right. He basically said in 10 years, we might have AI doing what doctors and teachers do now, and that humans won't be required for most things. Okay. And understandably, because if you're like me, a statement like that is going to stir up, some anxiety, at the very least, certainly curiosity. Because like I said at the top of this, so if we've got AI taking over those roles, then we need to be concerned about therapists and counselors. We need to be concerned, or at least curious, about how robots may be replacing our psychologists. Hello and welcome to Speaking of This. This is the podcast where we take headlines just like the one I mentioned, and we turn the mirror over to see the other side. I'm Isabella Grace, your host and guide to the other side. So grab a comfy seat, put me on in the background, or throw your earbuds in for your walk, and let's get into our chat today. Before we get into the real meat of this episode, I'd like to remind you to do your own research. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research. Because today is a great chat, because this is the first episode in a series I like to call Mind and Machine, where we'll be exploring the intersection of technology and the human experience, because this is a topic that has been making a lot of waves recently. The role of artificial intelligence in mental health is trending, because I don't know if you've noticed, but AI is influencing the way we approach not only our health and mental well-being, but a lot of things. Teaching, intellect, writing, publishing, and I could go on and on and on. At the top of this episode, remember when I referenced the article that recently came out where Bill Gates was foreshadowing AI taking over the role of doctors and teachers? This can be a really scary statement for a lot of people. But before we all panic and we envision a robot uprising of therapists, let me set the scene for today's discussion, because this episode is going to be more of a nuanced exploration. My goal isn't to have you, amp up all of your anxiety with some doomsday scenario. I don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is I want to unpack this topic in a really balanced way. I want to acknowledge the wow, okay factor of AI. There are a lot of possibilities there, but I also want to acknowledge the wait a minute, the whoa factor, with some valid concerns and challenges. So you're going to learn in this episode what AI in mental health actually means, the cool tools that they actually have out there that it's already in use. Like there are some AI chatbots. They have some quirky names that you may have heard of, the benefits of these tools that they are already bringing and could continue to bring, the concerns and the ethical challenges that are lurking in the shadows. There are some cultural and social angles to think about. And finally, what the future might hold. So by the end of this, you're going to have a much clearer picture of whether AI is more of a friend or foe when it comes to your mental well-being. So let's all just take a collective deep breath and let's just dive into it, okay? So first things first, what is AI and mental health? What do we mean by when we say this? Artificial intelligence, it sounds like this really huge sci-fi concept, but in simple terms, AI refers to machines or software that are going to and can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence to do. So this would include things like understanding language, learning from data, problem solving, for example. Now, how does that look when we apply it to mental health, though? When we do apply this to mental health, we're talking about AI tools designed to support emotional and psychological well being. One of the most common examples is AI chatbots for therapy or counseling, and you might have already encountered those. And if you're thinking chatbot therapist, really? Yeah, you're not alone. Okay. It sounds a bit futuristic, but these have been around for a few years and are growing in popularity. So let me introduce a few to you by name. This is in no way an exhaustive list. Also, I am not sponsored by any of these that I'm mentioning. Okay. So let's start with Wobot. I said Wobot, spelled WOE. Okay. Despite the goofy name, I kind of like the name. Wobot is pretty sophisticated. It's basically a little AI chatbot that you chat with like you would text a friend. So Wobot talks to you through a messaging app about what you're going through, and it uses proven strategies from cognitive behavioral therapy, so CBT for short, to engage with you. It was created by psychologists and AI experts at Stanford. And the idea is that it can help coach you through negative thoughts or anxious feelings in real time. Okay. Well, the next one I want to tell you about is WISA. Now, WISA is another popular AI mental health app. It features a really, okay, listen, this one's cute. It's an adorable penguin avatar, and that's your chatting buddy. And this chat bot is what it is. It guides you through cognitive behavioral therapy. So, again, CBT techniques for issues like stress. Maybe you have low mood, you're feeling down, maybe you're experiencing anxiety. So, it's like having like a little pocket coach. And what's cool about this particular chat bot is it isn't just all machine, okay? If you opt in, and you usually have to pay for this, it can also connect you to a human mental health professionals for additional support. So in fact, WISA even received an FDA breakthrough device designation in 2022 for its work supporting people with chronic pain and depression. So that is showing us that these tools are being taken seriously in healthcare. It received that award. Another one I want to talk about is Replica. Now, this one's a bit different in vibe, I think. Replica is an AI companion app that a lot of people use for emotional support, but they also use it for casual conversation. It wasn't designed specifically as a therapy chatbot, by the way. However, many of the users have turned it into something kind of like that. So Replica's AI can take on roles. It'll take on roles for you of a friend, maybe a therapist figure, and that's how some people use it. And research has been pretty consistent in showing that when people are using this particular chatbot in those various ways as a friend to confide in, and it's kind of sort of a therapist or even an intellectual mirror, if you will, that reflects their thoughts. It's more about companionship and having someone or something to talk to anytime you want to. So it doesn't matter, right? They don't sleep. So those are just a few examples of how AI and mental health is existing already today. Even therapy sessions that you have, there might be an AI assistant that is assisting a human therapist. And they're doing it by analyzing your conversation with the human therapist for certain cues. And it helps them summarize the patient's progress. So yes, AI has definitely entered the therapy room, so to speak. It's not a full-fledged robot therapist that sits in a chair, at least not yet. And that's kind of scary, but at least not yet. But it's present in more subtle app-driven ways. Now, I'm talking to you, I'm setting the foundation. I want to set the foundation for you in that AI in mental health means using intelligent software as a tool to either support the therapist, the human therapist, or provide some level of therapeutic interaction directly to you. So there are some benefits of AI. And now that we know what AI and mental health looks like, let's talk about why people are actually excited about it. What are those benefits that these AI tools bring, especially considering we have a global mental health crisis going on right now? Okay. One of the biggest promises of AI mental health tools is accessibility. And you might have already figured that out when I mentioned Replica. That was the chatbot. Well, all of them. You can reach it any time. It doesn't have to be a certain time of day. So it's accessibility that's important. The harsh reality is that a lot of people who need mental health support, they're just not getting it. In fact, I can give you some statistics. We got about 85% of people that have these mental health issues globally that aren't receiving any treatment, often because there just aren't enough providers to give that treatment, or they just have a lack of access. And I could get deeper into the statistics part of it, and I'll touch on a little bit of this because I think these numbers are startling. But only about 13, if you think about accessibility and how many mental health providers are there are only about 13 mental health workers per 100,000 people. So that's globally. And that's just an average. If you look at different parts of regions, maybe poorer regions or different regions overall, it can be worse than that. So you could have a whole bunch of people never able to see a therapist. What's happening is AI is stepping up and trying to fill and bridge that gap. So unlike a human therapist who can only see one person at a time and usually only within working hours, an AI chatbot can be available 24/7, and it can handle conversations with many people all at the same time, so simultaneously. So what does this mean? 24/7 support. So if you need something, you need help, you're feeling anxious, let's say at 3 a.m., and I would dare to ask what therapist office is open at 3 a.m. Okay. Maybe there's one out there, but I've never heard of it. But let's say at 3 a.m. you need some help. An AI app on your phone is open and it's ready to chat. If you're feeling down or depressed, let's say when another holiday comes up, because those are biggies for people, those clinics are usually closed. But guess what's not closed? Your AI friend doesn't take holidays. And you've probably guessed it at this point. When I talked about access and I talked about some of those poorer regions, cost is going to be another factor. Traditional therapy is pricey. It's expensive. And in some places, it's not even allowed. It's true. That's a whole nother episode, but those are just facts. Now, these AI tools, by contrast, can be scaled at relatively low cost. So that just means you're going to have access to it. And once the software is built, it just adds another user and it doesn't cost that much. Some of those apps like Wobot are free, or at the very least, it's very low cost to use for their basic feature. Now, if we go back to Bill Gates and the article that he did, his provocative prediction even touched on this accessibility. He said that great medical advice and great tutoring, and we can extend that to therapy, might become free in the next decade thanks to AI. So imagine accessibility. Imagine free mental health advice for anyone with an internet connection or a phone for that matter. That is an absolutely compelling, I don't even know what else to say, vision, right? For communities, especially that are underserved or individuals who just simply can't afford regular therapy. For that, AI might actually offer a lifeline. Then let's talk about then efficiency and scalability, because AI can handle the role, it can handle repetitive tasks that might bog down human clinicians. Okay. So, for example, what does that mean? Well, if you've ever been to even just going to a medical appointment, but you go in, you have to do an initial intake questionnaire. If you're going to see a therapist, usually you have to do mood tracking, appointment reminders, and these could all be automated, freeing up human professionals to focus on the sessions that truly need more of a human touch. On a larger scale, AI doesn't get burnt out the way that humans do. It doesn't need a vacation, it doesn't need to sleep. So, in theory, if you're scaling up mental health services with AI, that could help alleviate some of the pressure on already overloaded healthcare systems. There isn't one interesting stat that I think would be important to mention right now. There was a study done, and there was a study that found that when therapy is more personalized, which AI can help with by crunching data on what works for whom, patient engagement and sticking with the treatment improves significantly. In fact, there were some interventions that saw up to 60% improvement in adherence when it was tailored by AI. Well, that makes sense because it's tailoring it for the person, most likely figuring out what the person will stick to. That means that more people could actually stay in treatment and get better outcomes because the support is customized to them. The treatment is customized to the person. Another benefit that is often overlooked is reduced stigma. And tell you that mental health has huge amount of stigma. Seeking treatment is tagged with a lot of stigma. But the benefit to AI is a reduced stigma and increased comfort in seeking help. Well, why is that? Well, believe it or not, some people might feel more at ease talking to a machine about very personal problems than to another human, at least at first. Okay. And also think about accessibility. The person doesn't have to get up, get dressed, go out their door and go find a therapist, right? They can just open their computer or phone right there in the comfort and privacy of their own home. So there's no fear of judgment from, going out there from other people. And there's no fear of judgment from a computer. And as it's understood, it's not going to gossip about you. It's completely anonymous. And there's lots of studies out there that have shown that a lot of folks will actually open up about some really tough topics to chatbots. Things like depression, things like anxiety, even other they're all serious, but even other negative thoughts, rumination, etc. Because they're saying they just feel safer and they don't feel as embarrassed talking to this machine as they would talking to a person face to face. And for someone who's highly anxious or shy about seeking help, an AI chatbot could be just a gentle entry point into the world of therapy. And it's available whenever they're ready. And it doesn't get offended if you ghost it for a week or two. Finally, AI tools can offer consistency. So a machine isn't going to have, remember me telling you, it doesn't need a holiday, it doesn't need a day off. It's not going to accidentally, by the way, also say the wrong thing out of frustration as humans do. If it's programmed well, it will respond in a consistent, calm manner every single time. That predictability humans are finding comforting. And AI can also pull from a vast database of techniques and coping strategies like that very quickly. So let's say you're dealing with insomnia. And anxiety and relationship issues. If you're dealing with a really well-designed AI, it could seamlessly switch between those topics and offer evidence-based exercises for each of those things you may be dealing with. Whereas a human might need to dig through memory or training or do some research to be able to find the right tool. So in summary, the upside of AI and mental health is about more people getting more help whenever they need it at lower cost. It's not about doing away, I think, with human therapists. It's about filling the gaps where humans can't always be. And for many, an AI chatbot might be the first or only mental health support they've ever had access to. And even for those who do have therapists, the tools, the AI chatbots, they can help be a great between session support, like a supplement, if you will. So imagine having a session with your human counselor once a week, and in between, you use an app that coaches you through exercises and checks in on you daily. It can be a very powerful combination. But I said I was going to look at this from a balanced space. So I need to look at concerns and ethical challenges. Because, of course, it's not all sunshines and rainbows with AI. With great power comes great responsibility and a fair share of concerns, okay? So let's pivot to the concerns and ethical challenges that come up when we talk about AI and mental health. First of all, how about empathy and human nuance? And this is a big one. Can a machine truly understand you? Can that chatbot truly understand you? The consensus with the data, so the consensus among experts is no, at least not in the deeply human way a person can, okay? AI, no matter how advanced, lacks human consciousness and genuine emotion. That's usually how we can tell if something's been written by ChatGPT, because it doesn't have that genuine emotion. I mean, maybe the words are there, but there's something missing. It means well, or rather is programmed well, but it doesn't feel. And as one academic paper kind of bluntly put it, and I'm just going to tell you what they said. Machines lack consciousness and emotions and cannot empathize. They can't empathize with us or experience human emotions. In therapy, a lot of the healing that happens comes from that feeling of being truly heard and understood by another human. An algorithm might recognize the words, "I feel worthless," and respond with a comforting line, but it doesn't feel sad for you. It doesn't care for you in the way that a person does. And many people argue, and I tend to agree, that in areas like mental health, the human connection, it's irreplaceable. A human therapist can read between the lines. They can notice a trembling voice or simply share a moment of silence with you in a way that a chatbot cannot do. So one concern is that if people rely solely on AI for mental health, they might miss out on the healing power of human empathy. There's even a fear of dehumanization. And that just means we start seeing mental health support as some sort of transactional advice. So we're dispensing service rather than having a compassionate human process. And then there's this thing called data privacy and security. When you're pouring your heart out to a chatbot or an app, you're essentially sending very sensitive personal information into the digital void. Where does it go, y'all? And who might access it? There have been enough data breaches in healthcare to make anyone's stomach turn, make your head turn, right? If an AI therapy app isn't rock solid secure, there's a risk that the conversations that you're having that you thought were private could be exposed or misused. And beyond hackers, there's also the question of the company itself. Are they using your chat data to train their models without your knowledge, without your permission? Are they selling anonymized or not so anonymized data to third parties? Any AI mental health tool must prioritize encryption, data protection, and transparency about how your user data is handled and being used. And there's another concern: effectiveness and the risk of over reliance, so dependency. So, how well do these AI tools actually work if you compare it to traditional therapy? The research so far is promising in some areas, like some studies found AI chatbots can reduce anxiety and depression symptoms for many of its users, but it's not conclusive. It doesn't have any uniform positive trend. Some trials show they help. Other trials kind of show mixed results. So some help, some don't. They're still trying to figure out when they're most effective and for whom they are most effective for. So we need to remember, and this is important, what happens if someone uses an AI tool and thinks that's enough when they actually need more serious help? There's a concern that people might delay seeking out more human therapy or medical help because the chatbot gives them a false sense of security or a false sense that they're better, they've improved. And on the flip side of that, there's the dependency risk. People actually might become too reliant on their AI helper. I know this happens with their human therapist, and there are certain steps in place to help deal with that. But if you're turning to a AI chatbot for every emotional wobble in your life, every emotional thing, and some of those are normal, we all deal with those everyday hassles, etc., you might start actually neglecting real life coping skills or human support networks. So your friends, your family in your life. And one review out there, there was some research out there that really pointed out this risk, in that people that are using these AI chatbots for therapy, there are some that become overly reliant on this, and there are potentially neglecting the benefits of human interaction in mental health care. And there were some extreme cases out there. There were more than a few extreme cases where they were actually isolating themselves more, because why did they really have to go out and socialize? Because, hey, they have their AI friend, and you know what? That's all they need. And that might actually worsen loneliness in the long run, because let's not forget about ethical use and accountability as well. If a human therapist gives you really bad advice or behaves unethically, there are actually professional boards and licenses on the line. They are held and can be held accountable. What happens, though, if an AI chatbot gives you harmful advice? Who is responsible? Is it the company who made it? The developer who coded that part? And how do you even flag or appeal a bad decision from an algorithm? Those are really uncharted waters right now. Maybe in the future it'll be different, but right now they're sort of uncharted. Not sort of, they are. For instance, imagine an AI that fails to recognize a clear sign of someone really getting worse and having a lot of rumination, negative thought patterns. A human therapist would likely catch subtle cues and act on that, whereas an AI might not always. That's literally a very serious issue. So ensuring that these tools are safe and have proper emergency protocols, like alerting a human if there's a crisis, that's an ethical must. Another sticky point is bias and cultural competence. If AI is trained on data mostly from, say, Western English speaking users, it might not be as effective for people of different cultures or backgrounds. There's a risk that it can misunderstand or even offend someone from another culture by accident just because it wasn't trained properly. It wasn't coded properly. The AI might give one size fits all, and we know that one size doesn't fit all. For example, an AI might recognize the significance of certain cultural family dynamics, or it might misinterpret someone's expressions of emotion due to cultural differences. This research is ongoing to try to address this. So while AI in mental health offers exciting benefits, we have to tackle these concerns really head on. We don't want to lose the human touch. We don't want to sacrifice privacy. And we certainly don't want to create a generation that's dependent on robotherapists that might not truly meet their needs. So it's a really delicate balance. The key is being aware of these pitfalls now so that developers, clinicians, and those who use these chatbots can approach AI tools with their eyes wide open and then use them responsibly. So looking ahead, it's time to cast our eyes to the horizon. What's next? Where is all this headed in the future of AI and mental health? It's a fast-moving field, so there are plenty of innovations brewing, as well as discussions about regulation and ethics that are gaining steam. One thing we're definitely going to see more of, even more advanced AI therapists powered by the latest tech like GPT-4 and beyond. For those who might not be familiar, GPT-4 is a state-of-the-art language model, the tech behind ChatGPT, that can produce very human-like text. And they also can talk to you now. Imagine a chatbot therapist that's powered by something like GPT-4. It could potentially handle even more nuanced conversations, understand context better, and provide more sophisticated responses than current, simpler chatbots. And one thing I know for sure, because I do use ChatGPT, and I've noticed over the time that I've used it, it doesn't forget certain things. And it's kind of uncanny and strange and a little bit creepy sometimes, but it predicts, my writing, what I'm going to like, what I'm looking for by basically analyzing all my data before. And I wouldn't be shocked in a couple of years if we have an officially vetted AI surface, maybe even FDA approved for certain kinds of counseling. And I know that is a hard concept for a lot of people, but I see that coming. People are going to be able to access mental health as a first line of support. And, it makes sense. It's so difficult right now just to access one-on-one care with someone. And another exciting thing coming is real-time emotion recognition and intervention. Oh, yes. I want you to picture this. You're wearing your smartwatch or you're using a chat app, and the AI not only listens to your words, but guess what else it's doing? It's monitoring your physical signs, your heart rate, your voice tone, even your facial expressions if you video chat. Yes, it's possible. So if it detects during this interaction that you're starting to spiral, let's say into anxiety, say your heart rate is spiking and your typing speed speeds up, it may suggest distress. It might proactively intervene and say, hey, I noticed you might be feeling anxious. Want to do a 5-minute breathing exercise together? Yeah. Some apps already do like a basic version of this. For example, Apple Watch can alert you if your heart rate is high, and it will suggest a breathing exercise. There's work on using smartphone sensors and usage patterns to catch early signs of issues, um, relapses in, anxiety or depression. And in the future, AI could become more of an active guardian of our mental health. So it could nudge us, kind of like a emotional support dog, or one that's there, people that suffer maybe from different seizures, and they can kind of foresee it coming on. This is kind of how I'm seeing it. But anyway, they would nudge us when we're slipping, and they would help us to find help faster. This can be great for preventative care. So they'd be able to catch something before it becomes a full-blown crisis. Now, with all of this progress, we absolutely, without a doubt, need regulations and ethical frameworks to keep up. This is the wild, wild west right now in some respects. Okay, there is growing consensus that we're going to need some clear guidelines for AI in healthcare, and mental health is a big part of that. So there have been some published guidance on ethics in healthcare. And basically what they're saying is, hey, listen, you need to be transparent. You need to think about the safety of people. You need to think about accountability. I mean, who's to blame when something goes wrong? We might see some regulations about what AI chatbots can and can't do. So, for example, maybe rules that an AI must disclose that, okay, it must tell you I'm not human, because we've got some AI avatars that could be sitting here right now like I'm sitting here. I know there's a lot of different spaces where people use these to get out certain things. And some of them are getting really, really good. Like you cannot, you can still tell they're not human, but they are getting absolutely good. In fact, the most popular, I believe it's a gaming channel. Don't quote me, but it's an AI avatar. It is not a human. I kid you not. So, yes. So we need to have some regulations on that. So there's talk of rigorous, requiring these rigorous testing of these AI systems like we do now for, many different things in the medical field. So just imagine an FDA-like approval for an AI therapy app, and it could be coming down the line. Also, issues like data privacy might get addressed. I talked to you about that through laws, okay, maybe addressing that. Ethical frameworks are being proposed by scholars right now, like applying an ethics of care approach where the focus is on maintaining empathy, patient autonomy, and trust in these AI tools, because we want to be able to ensure that AI is always used to complement and support human care, not undermine it. Even Bill Gates, who had those bold predictions, acknowledged that a human touch will likely always be required in certain areas of care. The general vibe I'm getting from the field is, yes, let's use AI to extend care to more people and make it better, but let's keep humans in the loop. I think that's a nice summary of the ideal future, AI and humans working hand in hand for mental wellness. But stating that out loud, it's still a strange world for me. I don't know about you. It's still just strange. Now, in terms of tech innovations, we should keep an eye on integration of services. Right now, you have your app, and if you need a human, maybe they refer you out. In the future, I expect to see a more seamless blend. For example, you use an AI app and it's part of a larger platform where if you hit certain flags, a human therapist pops into the chat, or the AI will schedule you a session automatically. Companies are already moving this way. WISA, as I mentioned, can hand off to human coaches, and they merged with a healthcare provider company to integrate AI with primary care. Yes, you heard that right. Also, personalization will improve. So the more, and I told you that, listen to this. I already said that with ChatGPT. The more you use an AI tool, the more it's going to tailor its approach to you within ethical limits. That's what they say. It might learn that, for example, you respond better to humorous encouragement than some sort of stern piece of advice, or that you prefer visual exercises over text. Future AI might dynamically adjust its style for each user. So, guess what? Hey, as weird as it sounds like AI is going to be getting a little bit more human like in rapport over time. I'm also hopeful about better outcomes data. As these tools get used, we'll have more data on what works and what doesn't. Right now, we've got a lot of mixed data. Some's positive, some not so much. But anyway, this data can help fuel more research into this in general. Imagine being able to analyze millions of anonymized therapy sessions to see patterns, like what techniques help most with a certain demographic. That would really help, and it could help inform training for human therapists too. Of course, we must do that carefully and ethically. And I have to mention, some futurists even talk about things like AI and virtual reality therapy. This is where you would put on your VR goggles, and then maybe an AI avatar therapist sits in a room with you, or AI driven mental health chatbots embodied in cute home robots. I don't know. Who knows? The form factors probably are going to change. AI is, it's exploding. But the core idea is the same. Basically, you want to balance machine intelligence to support mental health, or you want to use machine intelligence to support mental health. And as we look ahead, my mantra is human-centered care despite AI growth. I don't know, but you cannot. Here's the thing. The way that I see this is that it's here, it's happening. There's nothing that we can really do about it. AI is growing. People are using it. There are advantages and disadvantages. It's like if you can't stop it. It'd be like taking a mop out to the ocean and trying to mop up the ocean. It's just impossible, okay? We want technology to serve people then, not the other way around. So if we keep the conversation open, we involve clinicians, patients, different companies, and you're giving these companies feedback, we're talking about it, then perhaps we can help shape a future where AI, because you can't stop it, remember, it's like trying to mop bucket ocean. The thing is, we can shape a future where AI is a positive force in mental health. It could help democratize well-being, making help available to a lot more people that can't get access. But it should always keep humanity at its heart, empathy, understanding, and the uniqueness of each person. So we've covered a lot of ground today. And let's just take a moment to recap some of the major insights from what we've discussed today in our chat, discussing AI and mental health. We started with that startling Bill Gates headline about AI possibly replacing doctors and teachers in a decade. It set the stage for why people are anxious and intrigued about AI's rapid rise. We defined what AI and mental health is in simple terms. We met some of the AI players in the mental wellness arena, like WeBot, CBT chatting Robo Buddy, Wiza, the Penguin pal that helps with anxiety and even connects you to human coaches. And then Replica, which is the AI friend a lot of lonely people actually have turned to for conversations and comfort. And the key point is that AI isn't some magical doctor in a box, at least not yet. It's mostly apps and chatbots offering coaching and sort of a listening ear. AI doesn't have an ear, but you get it. And we got optimistic and we looked at some of the benefits because we were discussing how AI can make mental health support more accessible. reaching people who otherwise have nothing, whether due to cost, location, or stigma. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It scales without huge cost, so it's affordable to most people. And it can personalize support in ways a stretched thin human workforce might struggle to do so. We heard from the experts, some of them, and how they believe AI could complement human care by handling routine tasks and freeing up therapists for the deeper stuff that's needed. And we also took a look, or we at least noted, how these tools might help people open up without fear of judgment. Then we brought it all back around, brought us back down, back to earth with the concerns and ethical challenges, because we have to confront, and we confronted the fact that AI lacks true empathy. It just can't replicate the human connection that's so healing in therapy so far. We flagged privacy risk. So pouring your heart out to an app means trusting it won't spill your secrets. And that's a big task when data breaches are happening a lot. We also discussed the risk of people becoming too reliant on AI or just misusing it. And they could just possibly avoid, seeking out real help or losing touch with humans. And we touched on biases, because if an AI isn't well trained on different cultures, it could possibly misinterpret or underserve certain communities. We also looked at cultural and social considerations, and we acknowledge that no one size, it doesn't fit all in most places, especially here. AI chatbots have a hard time with cultural nuances. Research is demonstrating that. They're trying to improve it. So whether it's language, communication style, differing values, we saw that AI needs to get better. It just needs to be more culturally intelligent, not just artificially intelligent. We looked into the crystal ball right here. Imagine a crystal ball. We gazed into it and we expected more advanced AI helpers. Hello, Chat GPT-4, Hello, GPT-4 and beyond, that might handle conversations more smoothly, but it will come with the need for oversight and smart regulation. And so looking into that crystal ball, we talked about the possibility of possible monitoring of well-being in real time and then stepping in proactively, which could revolutionize preventative mental health care. And if these tech tools grow, we did stress that keeping humans in the loop is really crucial. Future regulations and ethical guidelines will probably formalize how that's going to happen. So how AI and humans will work together in healthcare. So the dream scenario was that, AI making mental health care is going to be more human centric, because AI is going to do the heavy lifting on logistics and accessibility. And then humans will be able to focus on human stuff, right? Empathy and complex judgment calls that currently machines can't handle, at least for now. We don't know what the future holds. The human element in healing is really the recurrent theme. It doesn't matter how fancy the gadgets get. There is something fundamentally powerful about one human helping another. And AI can augment that, and that's great. And maybe we should embrace it. Maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. That's a personal decision, but it shouldn't erase it for sure. So where do we land then? AI in mental health is neither a savior nor a dystopian villain. It's a tool. It's a tool, one with immense potential and some significant pitfalls can I speak today to navigate. It's really up to us. It's up to you. It's up to the users. It's up to the clinicians. It's up to the developers, podcast conversationalists like myself, to really shape how this tool is used. Nuance, I don't think we should run around and do a lot of fear mongering. I don't think that's going to help us because AI is going nowhere. It just keeps expanding. So I think more conversation is important to get the best outcomes. So thank you for hanging out with me through this really deep, well, we scratched the surface, honestly, exploration of how AI is impacting mental health and what's going on. And I hope it's given you some food for thought about how technology and mental health care might evolve together. And now I would love to hear your views. This is not just a one way conversation. How would you feel about talking to an AI about your feelings? Do you think you'd ever try a chatbot like WeBot or Wysa, or does the idea just simply make you uncomfortable? Do you share Gates' optimism about AI's capabilities, or are you just a bit more cautious? Feel free to share your thoughts by leaving a comment. Let's keep this conversation going, human to human, with perhaps an algorithm in the loop somewhere to push this podcast forward. And wherever you get your podcast, don't forget to share your comments, your thoughts, share this with someone you think might find this interesting. It's free and it helps other people find me. Remember, mind and machine can coexist. I think it's about finding the right balance. Stay safe, stay kind to yourself, and as always, thanks for listening.